The film begins in the small town of Normal, Alaska. Then, a mysterious man appears on the Miller family's property carrying a gift. As soon as the doorbell rings, Beth asks her daughter Jennifer to answer the door. She ends the call saying that she needs to go, since Rudy is not capable of doing even that simple task. As she goes to the entrance, Bob, the family dog, becomes agitated after sensing something. Rudy interrupts the game to help Jennifer, who cannot calm Bob down. When he opens the door, he realizes that there is no one outside, only a package left at the entrance of the house. The boy takes the gift inside, believing it was sent by his father. Meanwhile, John Miller goes to Fred's store to pick up the Christmas groceries and asks about the game he had ordered for Rudy. Fred explains that the item is not available yet, and John accepts the explanation. Back home, he talks with Beth and notices the presence of the unknown box. She says that the object was left at the door without any identification. Interested, John decides to find out what is inside, and Rudy opens the package. The family finds a snow globe, where John notices a detailed reproduction of the town of Normal. Everyone is intrigued by the object, until they are interrupted by the arrival of the pizza. Upon examining the snow globe more closely, Rudy finds a gear mechanism and decides to activate it. After the movement of the pieces, a huge crack appears in the miniature of the town. Moments later, the same phenomenon repeats itself in Normal, causing tremors and fires. Chaos takes over the place, and the sheriff ends up dying after being hit by a burning tree. Upon realizing the disaster, John goes to the town to help, and soon finds Jacob dead, while investigating a scream heard in the middle of the confusion. Rudy spends the night awake watching the snow globe, while Bob remains bothered by the object. Beth tries to convince her son to sleep, reminding him that everyone will have commitments in the morning. The next day, John and Beth prepare to deliver gifts in a neighboring town. They comment that Rudy will be under Mary's care while they are away. Before leaving, Beth says that she intends to talk to Jacob's brother about what happened. Jennifer asks what happened, but her parents avoid explaining. The girl then asks to accompany her mother on the deliveries because she wants to meet Derek Reed, a famous snowboarder from the region. After John convinces Beth to allow her to go, Jennifer thanks her father. Before leaving, John thanks her for the gift she supposedly gave Rudy. But Jennifer reveals that she was not the one who delivered the object, leaving her father intrigued. After Beth and Jennifer leave, Rudy goes outside with Bob until Mary, his babysitter, arrives. The boy tells John that he wants to see the area where the rupture occurred, leaving his father curious about how he knows that. Rudy reveals that he saw the event in the snow globe, but John and Mary do not believe the explanation. Even so, John decides to check the situation when he returns. After saying goodbye to his son, he leaves Rudy in Mary's care. Meanwhile, Beth and Jennifer prepare for the helicopter flight. The young woman is excited to meet Derek Reed, and her mother asks her to maintain a professional attitude. When Derek arrives accompanied by Greg, Jennifer shows interest in him. Beth interrupts the situation and tells her daughter to take care of another task. Later, John goes to the town to better understand what happened and talks with Tully about the damage caused by the tremors. He discovers that the repairs are advanced and that the gas network remained intact, something considered lucky. When he asks if other regions were also affected, Tully explains that no one else noticed the phenomenon. Despite finding the situation strange, John decides to keep helping with the work. Elsewhere, Beth leaves Derek and Greg on the mountain and goes on to make the deliveries. While the two prepare to descend, the snow globe begins to show the area where they are. Rudy notices that Bob remains uneasy near the object. Worried, he decides to check the globe again because he was the only one who noticed the connection between what happens inside it and the real events. When Bob tries to grab the object, he ends up activating the mechanism by accident. Mary appears to check what happened, but she does not worry and only calls Rudy to eat. After Rudy leaves the snow globe aside, a storm begins to appear in the miniature of the mountain. In the helicopter, Beth notices her daughter's excitement over having met Derek. However, the conversation is interrupted when the aircraft begins to shake. Jennifer becomes apprehensive, but Beth tries to reassure her, saying it is only a breeze. Shortly afterward, they spot a strong storm forming ahead and decide to change course. During the attempt to return, an object is thrown by the storm against the helicopter, but Beth manages to avoid the impact. Meanwhile, Derek and Greg continue descending the mountain without realizing the danger approaching. In the town, John and Tully continue working on the repairs when Larry and Norm arrive at the place. Larry tries to keep people's spirits up, reminding them that Jacob would want them to continue celebrating Christmas. Shortly afterward, the town clock begins working again, surprising John. He asks Fred if he was the one who fixed it, but the man denies it and explains that the mechanism had been stopped for years. Before they can understand the situation, a loud thunder draws everyone's attention, revealing the arrival of an intense storm. In the helicopter, Beth and Jennifer face increasingly dangerous conditions. The storm approaches and large pieces of ice begin to be hurled. Trying to ask for help, Beth instructs her daughter to find a communication frequency. Jennifer manages to send an alert, which is received by John. He tries to respond, but cannot make contact, so he decides to go in search of them. On the mountain, Derek and Greg continue recording the descent when they notice the storm approaching. A piece of ice ends up hitting Greg, injuring him and causing him to fall into the snow. Derek tries to help him, but the situation worsens when an avalanche of debris is caused by the impact of another block of ice on the mountain. The two need to leave the place quickly to survive. Meanwhile, Beth and Jennifer continue trying to escape the storm in the helicopter, but they are also hit by the ice fragments launched by the phenomenon. In Normal, the residents panic because of the destruction, and Tully instructs everyone to seek shelter. During the chaos, Larry manages to save Norm from being hit by the debris, but the escape of the two also ends in danger when a pole falls on the car they are in. After the storm passes, the town is left in ruins. John arrives at the office looking for his family, but realizes that they are not there. Not knowing where they are, he takes a snow vehicle and goes out to search for them. Fred and Tully go to the area hit by the storm to check the damage, but find Larry calling for help from inside the car. When they try to help, they realize that the vehicle is receiving electricity because of the pole that fell on it. Tully stops Fred from approaching and explains that the tires are the only protection against the electric current. He asks Larry and Norm to remain calm while he looks for a safe way to get them out of there. However, the situation worsens when Norm gets hurt, making Larry warn Tully about his friend's injury. Even so, Tully tries to calm them down and says that he will find a way to save them. Meanwhile, Rudy is worried about the family, but Mary tries to calm him and manages to distract him with a game. On the mountain, Beth wakes up after the helicopter crash and finds Jennifer trapped by the belt in the aircraft wreckage. While trying to free her daughter, the helicopter moves, making the situation even more dangerous. Greg is found by Derek with a large piece of ice embedded in his back. Without wasting time, Derek does everything possible to stabilize his friend and improvises a way to transport him down the mountain. Nearby, Beth searches among the gifts for an object that can cut the belt keeping Jennifer trapped in the helicopter. During the rescue attempt, the wreckage begins to slide through the snow, and shortly afterward, a fire takes over the aircraft. Beth manages to free her daughter in time, and the two escape before the explosion. Noticing a column of smoke on the mountain, John heads to the place. Jennifer, still injured by the accident, can barely move beside her mother. Moments later, they hear a vehicle approaching. Fear soon gives way to relief when they realize it is John, who finally reunites with his family. In the town, Tully looks for a way to turn off the power, while Larry tries to keep Norm awake. With a pickaxe, Tully hits the circuit breaker and ends up fainting after receiving a shock. John returns with his family and tries to request a rescue for Derek and Greg, but cannot make contact. On the mountain, the two arrive at the site of the helicopter crash. Upon realizing that there is no one in the wreckage, they decide to descend to look for them. At home, Rudy decides to put the snow globe away, but Mary notices and takes the object. The boy insists that the globe is causing all the disasters and says that even Bob distrusts it. When she picks up the object, she notices the gear key, but Rudy becomes desperate and insists that the globe is cursed. Mary says she did nothing, but immediately afterward, the gear begins to spin by itself. Convinced that another disaster is about to happen, Rudy takes the globe back. At that moment, Bob runs away from the house, and Mary goes after him, leaving the boy alone. At the same time, the town clock starts working again, and new tremors begin. On the mountain, Derek and Greg spot an avalanche approaching, but end up being hit. Jennifer notices the danger and warns her parents, leaving the two apprehensive. John accelerates the vehicle to try to escape, but they are also reached by the snow. In the town, Larry begins to find Tully's delay strange and tries to understand why he has not returned yet. At that moment, Norm notices a strong smell of gas and warns his friend. Upon noticing that there is a large leak in the area, Larry understands that the situation has become even more dangerous. Shortly afterward, a fire begins below the vehicle, increasing the risk for the two. Even with Norm trying to warn him, Larry decides to force the door to escape. Tully awakens and shouts for him to stop, but Larry manages to free himself, taking only a small electric shock. Larry manages to get out of the vehicle, but immediately afterward, it explodes. From the second floor of a house, Tully witnesses the explosion and runs to help Larry, who is shaken by the loss of his friend. Meanwhile, John and his family remain trapped by the snow. Unable to make contact by radio, he tries to find a way out, but realizes that the vehicle is stuck. At the Miller house, Mary returns without finding Bob and realizes that Rudy has disappeared. She finds a note from the boy, where he takes the blame for what is happening. Trapped, John and Beth conclude that the storm does not seem natural. Beth hears the creaking of the windows and realizes that they may not hold for long. Jennifer hears someone calling for her and soon realizes it is Derek, who manages to open a path through the snow until he finds them. With his help, the family manages to leave the place and begins to descend the mountain. In the town, Fred tries to understand if Tully managed to communicate with John. Tully explains that the radios still work, but some kind of interference prevents contact, besides commenting that the rescue should already have arrived. Fred then goes out to look for supplies, while Tully continues trying to communicate. On the way, Derek tells Jennifer that Greg did not survive the avalanche, leaving her shaken. When they find John's vehicle, they finally manage to make radio contact with Tully. John informs him that everyone is injured, but safe. Even though he is instructed to go to town, he decides to find Rudy first. Meanwhile, Mary desperately continues searching for the boy. Mary finds the family on the way and explains what happened with Rudy. She hands over the note left by the boy, but John does not understand the message. Mary explains that Rudy was referring to the snow globe and that he tried to warn her about the object's danger, but she did not believe him. Jennifer then suggests that they split up because she knows where Rudy usually hides. Derek offers to go with Jennifer, while Mary continues searching for Rudy. John agrees and sets the meeting point at City Hall and follows with Beth. During the route, Beth asks why Rudy believes the globe is responsible for the events. John initially says that it is only their son's imagination, but remembers the crack he saw in the object. This makes Beth ask if he really thinks Rudy might be right. Even finding the idea absurd, John admits that maybe the boy knows something. Derek tries to understand where Rudy could be hiding, and Jennifer explains that the place is near a mine where her brother usually plays and calls it a magic fortress. During the walk, Derek remembers Greg and becomes shaken, revealing that his friend was like a brother to him. Feeling guilty for his death, he begins blaming himself, but Jennifer tries to comfort him, saying that without his help she and her family would not have survived. After that, the two continue looking for Rudy. Elsewhere, Fred finds Rudy alone and asks why he is there. The boy says that he was looking for him and shows the snow globe, asking if Fred was the one who sent the object. He denies it and says that he has never seen it before. Rudy explains that everything that happens inside the globe also happens in reality. Fred initially does not believe it, But when he observes more closely, he realizes that the town clock and the globe's clocks are synchronized, something he considers impossible. Meanwhile, Fred analyzes the snow globe, while Rudy explains that he believes the object is cursed and blames himself for what happened. Fred tries to calm him down, saying that he had no way of predicting that. Although he does not fully believe it, Fred admits that the globe is strange, especially because it has no brand or identification. At City Hall, the residents become increasingly apprehensive, and Tully tries to prevent panic from taking over the place. Larry shows concern about the lack of action, but Tully asks everyone to wait. Shortly afterward, John and Beth arrive looking for Rudy. Upon learning that he is with Fred, they go to the store and find the boy. Fred then presents the snow globe and questions John about its origin. He explains that the object mysteriously appeared at the door of his house. The four analyze the snow globe, and John realizes that it is different from when he last saw it. Fred begins to believe that Rudy may be right, and that the events of the object are happening in the town. Tully interrupts to warn that the residents are desperate for answers. Fred asks John to listen to his son, while Tully offers to look for Jennifer. After that, John and Fred show the globe to the residents and explain its connection to the disasters. Larry does not believe it and becomes outraged by the idea, remembering the losses caused by the storm. John explains that everything began when the gear was activated, but the residents doubt it when they learn that the discovery came from Rudy. Larry suggests that it is enough not to touch the object, but John explains that it is not that simple. When they question the town clock, Fred reveals that it had been stopped for years, leaving everyone even more worried. Fred explains that the globe's clocks and the town's clock are synchronized. He and John believe that it works like a countdown. Frightened, Larry asks what will happen when time runs out. John warns that a new disaster may occur even without anyone activating the object. Not believing it, Larry tries to destroy the globe with a piece of wood, but Fred realizes that it remains intact. When he tries to grab the object again, John stops him. The three go to a more private place, where Larry blames John for having found the globe. Fred tries to explain that the problem involves everyone, but John admits that he is right. Then Larry asks what they will do if the theory is true and another disaster is about to happen. In the mine, Derek and Jennifer try to escape the rocks that appear on the path, but he ends up being hit and does not survive. In the town, John and the others watch everything through the globe. Tully returns without finding Jennifer, and John decides to take responsibility for the object. Rudy suggests destroying it in a volcano, remembering a story from his game. The idea makes Fred associate the globe with the legend of Pandora's box, which released all the evils of the world. Fred explains that, according to the legend, there was still something inside Pandora's box. He says that Hephaestus's gift was created in the depths of a volcano, and that it would need to be returned to its place of origin to be destroyed. Rudy says that the last remaining element was hope. Upon realizing that Mount Thalberg has become active again, John believes that this may be the only way to destroy the globe. He asks the others to remove the residents from town while he returns to the mountain. Fred decides to stay, saying that he believes in John and in the Christmas miracle. Before leaving, John says goodbye to Beth and promises to find Jennifer. Meanwhile, Larry tries to escape the town, but ends up being killed by the rocks that appear on the path. John finds Jennifer and manages to leave her safe. Before continuing to the mountain, Tully gives him a snowmobile that was kept in the cabin. After John leaves, the residents try to leave normal, but Fred chooses to remain in the town, trusting that he will return. Before they can escape, new tremors hit the region and the path becomes blocked by flaming cracks. Fred indicates an alternative route, but Rudy believes that his father will manage to solve everything. During the escape attempt, Beth's vehicle ends up trapped after the ground opens again. Meanwhile, John faces difficulties on the way to the volcano. An impact knocks him off the snowmobile and destroys the vehicle, but he finds another transport and continues the journey. Shortly afterward, a new crack appears in his path and causes the snow globe to be thrown far away. In the town, the residents remain waiting for John while the destruction continues. John remembers Rudy's gift and uses the object to try to recover the bag with the globe. After risking himself on the ice, he manages to reach the item at the last moment and throws it into the lava, ending the threat. In the town, everyone realizes that the plan worked. During the wait, Beth fears that John will not return, but Fred tries to keep her confident. Rudy believes in his father's return, and shortly afterward, Bob reappears. When John finally arrives, the family reunites in an embrace. The residents then return to City Hall to celebrate Christmas. Later, Fred finds a new snow globe among the stored objects, and frightened, destroys it against the wall.